And then there's a whole big old there's a whole big old NFT arc that we are in, and you know, the thing with this, because there's always gonna be stories, but I think there's an important takeaway, right? So individually, we can go into like stuff like we talked about Ubisoft Quartz. What else happened? We talked about Molyneux
Yeah.
and his game, and so the details are going on about what they're going to be doing. And then the big one this week was Stalker, who announced Stalker
Uh,
2 would feature NFT integration, followed by an attempt to explain it, followed
Followed
by
by like
Andre the Giant dot GIF, where he's in the ring just going, wait, no, wait, hold on, no.
I feel like the NFT thing is perfectly summed up by like Stalker saying we're gonna do NFTs in Stalker 2, and like the blowback on that was like cataclysmic and
Mhm.
uniform,
Mhm.
and then they went no, we'll
Mhm.
explain it,
Mhm.
followed by a even larger blowback, which is no, we understand,
Mhm.
don't treat us like we're stupid.
Mhm.
Fuck. There's a special type of indignation and frustration that hits a person when somebody you're dealing with feels like if they just explain it to you more clearly, then you'll be on board. Because the only way you wouldn't be on board with their really good idea is that you're too stupid to understand. So they just explain it in more and more childlike terms, and there's no way to get across to them like, no, I understood from minute one, your idea sucks.
As a fan of explaining things, I can say that this was a rough progression down the middle step where everyone was like, no, really, dude, like it's not what that's not the deal, that's not the issue, right? So then eventually they walked it back entirely, and they said like, yeah, we're not including them in any way. Um, but the notable thing is that when you see the way a studio like that handles it, it's reflective of their size, it's reflective of their corporate culture and their ability to like take on these kind of experimental integrations in the development process, because it's a completely different reaction from the way Yves Guillemot responded in a recent interview when they were talking about the Ubisoft Quartz integration. And the phrasing here is one of those things that I told you guys about it a long time ago, and here it is again. Planned outrage. So the quote specifically is, uh, yes, according to them, Ubisoft co-founder said the backlash to the Quartz announcement was expected and likened it to the initial public outcry over previous new developments in the industry like DLC, microtransactions, and loot boxes. The implication seemed to be that NFTs would become similarly accepted over time. Some employees were concerned that the comparison, since even Ubisoft's microtransactions like XP boosters still regularly draw scrutiny from players. So,
Should mention, by the way, that Ubisoft is being crippled by a talent crash right now. They're having the biggest exodus of employees they've ever had in their entire company's history.
I mean, a ton of these stories that are happening have a unique angle that is like, even the people who work there fucking hate this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's been happening with a lot of these stories we've been talking about this year. And this one's no exception. When we first talked about the Star Wars microtransactions for Battlefront back in the day, and there was just like tons of people from not just people that are regular people, industry followers, not just people that are like hardcore, gamers and whatnot. People who are just Star Wars fans coming from the outside, going, "What the fuck? You want me to do what?" The level of anger at what they were doing was huge, and then you find out that like, yeah, the plan is to shoot for the moon, and if you miss, at least you land among the stars. It's that sentiment in terms of how angry we can make you. If we start out with something that is guaranteed to have you flying off the handle, when we walk it back to a milquetoast version of what it was by comparison, it'll still be egregious, but you'll feel as if that we conceded a win to you. And when you talk about like the integration of gas into studios, the integration of DLC that practices, and all these things becoming regular, it is a matter of turning the heat up on the frog in the pot until it slowly cooks alive so that it doesn't jump out.
Well, I have a follow-up to that reality.
I have one too, actually. I think we may be thinking of the same one. Is it the numbers?
It's the numbers.
Yeah, so that's exactly it. But the important thing to understand here is that when you're Stalker, you're not big enough of a studio to just factor in you're going to tank the hit of negativity and fight through it. And in the end, who cares? I don't care if you're angry at this. It'll be fine. Because Stalker 2 is their game. It's their product. This is everything they're banking on this release, right? Ubi integrating their shit across multiple games, and knowing that there is a large audience of people who don't know or care to follow the news of their releases. They're just like, there's a large casual audience, basically are banking on the fact that, like, yeah, you'll get upset and then you'll stop caring. It'll just become the norm. And the same people who have been in the ears of all of these studios to integrate these ideas, and that's been convincing them, for these larger places, they're basically doing the same thing they did with that DLC and going like, expect to take a hit to your reputation, but don't worry, you can survive it, and in the end it'll be fine. They'll tire themselves out.
And it's okay, because we're going to make tons of money with these things.
Of course. So,
it'll be worth all of it.
It'll pay off in the end, right?
Like in a second.
Okay, now here's what you have to also consider is what they're being promised, right? And when you really think about the board meetings that happen to discuss how you integrate these things, what they're being promised is so lucrative that they're being told they'd be foolish to not adopt this immediately.
These things are selling for like 10 million a pop, dude.
And the comparison, I don't even have to fucking be there to be a fly in the wall. I can tell you it's as simple as this.
I don't even have to have worked there to understand, because I've met a middle manager in my life.
The secondary market for video games, especially through businesses like GameStop, is insane. We've talked about the part where 90% of the money they make is by selling used copies of games. The idea that people in the games economy will sell things to each other and keep a perpetual thing going over the life cycle of a game is something that they've seen before and have actively tried to stop with things like codes to allow you to play online that you have to rebuy when you sell it to someone else. And all
Didn't work, just hurt sales.
Of course. What you're being told when you integrate something like Quartz is that because the ledger is kept, every transaction that someone makes towards someone else, you get a cut.
Yeah.
And a game studio being told that they get a cut of every secondary sale is too much money on the table for them to not be blinded by it.
And then people who are selling those, they get a cut to the new people. And that's going to work as long as the NFTs become more popular and more people keep getting in and coming in and buying it, and then getting their cut and then wanting to sell it to others, more, and then they get their, wait a second.
It's almost too good to be true. So shout outs
to... You're saying I'll make a lot of money buying from you as long as I find 5 people to sell to them, and then I'll get a cut from their 5 sales to each of them?
If people did not get if they didn't get a cut at the top, this would not be a discussion for any of these companies or studios. It would never be a part of this, right? No. And then, of course, none of that also even has to go into the part where, again, whoever is touring and doing their, whoever's doing the meetings, that's again getting these companies involved, is also, of course, well aware of the fact that on the back end, the best way to get interest in your NFT is to simply front the money for it to somebody to buy it, and then go, hey, look how much we sold it for, but it's a fake purchase because you just fronted all that money to them, and then they
which is stupid because you're doing it with a form of currency that tracks all transactions.
No, but it can still. But if you find a buyer who you give the cash to, and then
you can give them real money.
Yes. Then you.
The thing that actually matters.
Yeah. Then that doesn't that doesn't get traced. So it's a fairly indistinguishable process to see who that buyer is, where that money came from, and whether or not.
So it's cool. Game publishers are now getting into art-based money laundering via NFTs. That never went badly for anyone.
So yeah, shout outs to Liz Edwards, who posted on Twitter that looking at the numbers here, how are the Ghost Recon NFTs doing? Looked at the third-party marketplaces for Quartz, and there seems to be 15 sales total, 0 in the last day on the site. Am I reading this correctly? And yeah, there's a posting of all the transactions, of which there have been 15 in total, and the total volume is $396 USD.
Total.
Now, okay, that's how much they made over the 15 people. However, the cost of minting NFTs can go anywhere from $70 to $100, depending on who's doing it for you. And they have minted some 2,256 of them.
I'm just go with 2,200. Let's be generous. Times 70.
Yep.
No. Okay, hold on. 2,200 times 70 is approximately $154,000.
Sick.
Plus development time to actually create and test the assets, which unknown number, but it's definitely at least 2 people, right? Working on this for a week,
at least
2 weeks.
At least 2.
All right. Okay, good
hustle. Good business. It's good business.
You paid approximately $150,000 to get bad press.
And because these are marketplaces that you can track, you can continue to see what's going to happen here. Now, this performance seems to indicate that perhaps the thing I was talking about a minute ago, where you get somebody to you sell your snake oil and you have someone come up and go, I'll pay, what are you going to pay? 50? I'll pay 200 for it. And you go, oh, this man over here wants 200. What say you, sir?
Too.
Right. And that appears to not be happening because no one has waltzed into the Quartz slot and said, well, would you look at that? I'll buy it at a high price. You know,
it's
they forgot the part where you pump before you dump. They forgot the pumping part.
The NFT stuff is like really depressing because like every now and then you see, like, I follow some accounts that screenshot Reddit and stuff like that. You see people that are just don't know what they're doing, think it's a smart idea, and blow like their family's life savings into it. It's just like, it's heartbreaking. And at the same time, the nature of it, true believer or scammer or what have you, it's a highly obfuscated multi-level marketing pyramid scheme, which means that the only way to make money is to sell it to others to make money off of them, which means everybody talking about that is like the loudest, most obnoxious motherfucker in the world. Just incessant, fucking awful, annoying shit.
I mean,
every single time you go, I think this might be a scam because it's a scam. It's always just well, you don't know enough about it, man. Let me tell you. Let me give you my seminar where I don't dispute a single goddamn thing you think or say.
Is it a URL? Is
Yeah.
it is it a
Well,
URL?
it's a link to a server, and you own the receipt.
So
It's
it's
like,
a
well, do I
so it's
own
a,
the
so it's a URL.
do I own the item? No, you own the receipt to the item.
Yeah.
You know, somebody brought up a really fantastic analogy for this, which is, let's take like a Chanel purse, right? A Chanel purse has a certificate of authenticity because it's a fancy purse, and ladies like to know that it's not a knockoff, so they can show off that they have a real Chanel purse. Chanel purse can be a couple grand, right? And that certificate of authenticity is important if you plan to resell it. But if you have just the certificate of authenticity and no purse, who gives a shit what you're trying to sell?
Naturally. Of course, that's why. Although that's like, despite the thriving of the right-click save as memes, people don't actually give a fuck. That doesn't. They laugh at that because to them they're like, yeah, but it doesn't have the certificate, so your stupid memes don't make any sense. You're all goofy.
I think
But
the
the idea of
ultimate to that is like, yeah, the NFT bros and their Bored Apes and all that crap. Like, nobody wants your fucking hideous, ugly, computer generated garbage avatar.
so that's the. I mean, that's what
It's valueless.
the other thing. Like until you find the person that you sell it to, right? But
yeah,
at which point then it's all fucking worth it. So you keep the hype going until you do. But yeah, that's the other bit, is just like, the quality of the thing is often exceedingly low to fucking worthless. And the ones that look like they've had more time spent on them, the ones that are like fancier CG environments where there's like actual 3D things happening, are just asset flips off of fucking the 3D site there. I forgot what it's called. But you literally just buy a Chadwick Boseman head and you put some sparkles on it, and it's like, oh, so like even that part, the stuff that looks like it might have taken time, it did not, because you put the exact amount of effort into that as you did into your Picru ape, So it's not even the high quality is not of the high quality. It's also of the fucking complete. You took someone else's work and built off of it, this type of shit. So anyway, la-di-da-di-da. The question, of course, is just like, is Eve right? Will it just be a matter of brute forcing and batting down the hatches, and these aren't going anywhere, and we can just ride the storm out until the words don't mean anything anymore to people?
I don't think so, actually, on this one. I think the average person doesn't know what an NFT is, and there's a really specific, like, narrow band of tech savvy enough to kind of understand what an NFT is, but be into it, but not tech savvy enough to be like, oh, that's a fucking scam.
I saw a commercial for the fucking bank, a Christmas commercial, that literally was like an old lady in a rocking chair going, "What's an NFT?" Like
Right.
it's in that periphery at the very
Like,
least.
my dad, he's an old guy, right? He's in his early 70s. He is, I mean, he's okay tech savvy. Like, he used a computer when he was doing work, 20, 30 years ago, and he can send his email, he can browse the net, he can do stuff for my mom, right? But he's not playing games or doing anything more than that, right? If I explain this shit to my dad,
Mm-hmm.
I would get maybe 3-4 minutes in, and he would look at me and go, that's fucking stupid. That's a fucking scam. Let me tell you about Ponzi schemes back when they were running when I was a fucking kid. It's like, it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just dependent on experience and also personality, right? I have a
sometimes
generally skeptical, cynical personality. So when I look at stuff that's even real, half the time I go, that's probably a scam.
Now, sometimes, like, Boomer View will not understand technology and incorrectly assess it to be worthless.
Sure.
However, sometimes, like we're talking about with the snake oil, you can see a thing that has existed and is as old as time just being recreated in a new environment for new people who might not know about these types of things.
It's wild because like the pyramid scheme seems like perfect because it's like engineered to take advantage of like certain like cognitive like mistakes that the average person is likely to make because it keeps coming back over and over and over and over and over and it works super well every time.
I mean, if it's something that's banking on human nature, then of course it will.
Yeah. All you got to do is wrap it up in a nice little new bow.
But anyway, and then of course, yeah, you have like the part where like actually talented artists also possibly getting ripped off by the minting prices and such. There's a whole thing to it. But
also the environment.
What we likely end up seeing is like, you know, backlash never goes away. And there is going to be just a fade out that takes a while because obviously walking back a whole platform like Quartz is a bigger deal than Stalker NPCs. Mm-hmm. But there will then be the you know, the kind of the most belligerent, the smaller games that are like true believers because, you know, their CEOs are heavily invested at that point and they're all in on it. But what I expect, it's hard to predict, but what I expect would be when the dust settles, there will be an existing group of games that exist just to serve that purpose. Like these tank things and these whatever the fuck is that other one that like there's a bunch of games that are coming out that only exist because of the coin they're attached to or whatever, and I think like or selling of the avatar of the NFT of the avatar, and like that stuff will continue to exist in its own corner of weird internet space. But yeah, Ubisoft anticipates the outrage and calculates to tank the hit.
So first of all, I don't think NFT games are ever going to become a thing, like or blockchain games or whatever. I don't think the math on it works. I just don't think it works. I'm of the opinion that all these companies announcing their blockchain games or NFT games they're just not going to come out. They're just not going to happen as the money just doesn't work on it. Because the market for NFTs is so fucking actually awful. Like it's this really small part of it's a subsection of crypto investors specifically, right? They're just really, really fucking loud. And my personal favorite story about this, did you hear about fucking Wolf Game, Woolie?
No. What's that?
Wolf Game is a game that was built entirely into the Ethereum blockchain. The whole game is in the ETH blockchain. Okay? From a technical perspective, that's kind of interesting. Except for the part where they fucked up and left a game-breaking exploit in it. So they have to remake the entire game from scratch.
Whoa. Okay. I'd be curious to know what because the existing game is locked into the blockchain. Yeah, that's a permanent.
Yep.
Well, I mean,
the whole thing from scratch, and then they have to reissue the NFTs that had already been given out and go through that all fucking shit.
I mean, if you decide the moment you decide it has no value, then it doesn't, right? Ultimately, that's everything, really. That's the planet Earth. So that is how it's going. You keep an eyeball on that.
Also, an issue that I see for crypto investors in general in the coming years is that one of the big benefits to crypto is like, hey, the government can't fuck with it because it's decentralized. Except the U.S. government, the U.S. government can take your crypto just fine. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, the
IRS can take anything you have or want. What are you, crazy?
Oh, they can show up and do their thing, and they're clearly building the infrastructure for that.
Just this last year.
Yeah, I think for the people who are looking for the part where it can't get taken, you're fucking insane, and good luck on your raft out at sea. I think the part where it's all visible to everybody, and the idea of decentralization, as I mentioned, is one that is just valuable for people as a whole. But but if you think you're going to escape from your fucking tax rafters or whatever you're going to do, if you're going to use it like the Cayman Islands, then yeah, no, they're coming. They're coming. It's on the radar. It ain't going to last in that regard. Wolf game, yeah, I see that. Okay.